What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Big News Podcast. Jeez, you're like, fuck. Get ready. Welcome back to the Big News Podcast with me, your host, Paul Hughes. Our guest today is Northern Irish comedy OG. He is host of the Bomb Squad podcast. I would say head honcho CEO of General Banter Productions.
Oh, yeah.
And he is also newly promoted BJJ white belt.
Oh, yeah. Most importantly.
Most importantly, Mr. Colin Geddis. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Put in some sound effects. We don't have sound effects at like your podcast, but maybe someday.
Yeah, we get sick about the noises, to be fair.
Don't die.
Will you wise up with them noises every week?
I think it's one of the best things of the whole podcast.
Like a well-timed button is
unbelievable.
Comedy gold. Like.
So good. So here, chat to me. Where did this newfound martial arts, what's the word I'm looking for? Like love. Where did that come from?
Oh, the love's been there.
It's been there.
You know? No, I did a bit of jiu-jitsu like years ago. And then we moved house and there was nothing handy. And it just, I wanted it. It's one of the things you're like, I like doing it. I like it as a wee hobby. I'm not serious enough to be like driving for 2 hours to do it. And then I couldn't do it. And it just kind of forgot about it basically.
So how did you, like, where did this come from? So for the viewers, like last week I hit you up about doing this podcast. Yeah. You were like, yeah, no worries, man. I was like, unreal, this is great, what a guest. The next day I walk into my mate's gym down the road, Ryan Roddy.
Yeah.
And then I walk in and he's just getting manhandled by some huge human.
I wouldn't say
and
that.
I'm like,
I wouldn't say that.
I was like, what's going on here? Boxers halfway up your back, like just I was like, who is it? What's going on here? And then it's you, and I'm like, what are you doing down here?
But basically, like he's like, I'm sick of you talking about it on the podcast. He's like, just come down. And I was, I went down there expecting there's a few boys kicking about. It's just him, black belt. You know what I mean? So I was just getting absolutely origamied for the next fucking hour, basically. But it was great because like on paper. Because he's like, have you done a bit before? And then I started telling him. I was like, yeah, I went to like the Gracie club before they even had a club. And it was in like the Valley Leisure Centre.
How long ago was that? Like when did you start training?
Years ago, like.
Yeah.
Like everyone did where they're like watching UFC. And they're like, oh, I must do a bit of that. And then I did that. And
like
then,
how many years? Like 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Easy, yeah. And then.
So you're a comedy OG, but also a BJJ OG as well.
Yeah, but again, because it was such a like little hobby on the side, people were always like, what belt are you? And I'm like, nothing, because I went from getting murdered in a squash court at like at the Valley Leisure Centre to then
what belt's that?
I don't know. They all go black. I don't know if they mop the place at all. But then
they all eventually end up black belts because it's so stinking.
Yeah, and then black with tapeworm or something.
That's the next level belt. It's
black with mold.
Black with 2 stripes of ringworm.
Yeah.
And then like the ultimate.
Yeah. 2 rings of worm. And then went to like Damien, who now coaches like at the SBG. He started like a wee thing called Maida. Started going there. This is when I lived in Belfast. And then it went to SBG. And I was going, like I lived in Belfast and I was going like 4 times a week. And in hindsight now, I was like, I should have been going twice a day. It was that handy.
Yeah.
And then, it was because I did a bit of graphic design. I was doing like posters for seminars and stuff for him, that all of which I missed. So all the belt stuff and all, just missed every single one. In the poster,
it's like, you cannot miss this one.
Yeah.
You miss it every time.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm gigging. I'll do it for you. I'll do the poster for you. So I was doing it like a lot and for quite a while. Yeah. But just nothing to show for it.
So blue belt ain't coming then?
I mean, maybe it's so far gone now. I don't even care.
What? Why?
I wouldn't even take it seriously.
Oh, okay.
Like you're a blue belt now, and I'd be like, oh, sweet.
Do you know I actually just got my blue belt last week?
That's hilarious.
Which is hilarious. Now I don't train in the gi, hence why I never got graded.
Yeah.
And I said to my coach, and I was like, I don't want, because he's grading people in the gym. I was like, I don't want to be graded. I want to stay a white belt forever, just for the crack.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm promoting you, like, because you'll thank me in a few years when you're a black belt. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, I suppose. It might be more important to you, like when you retire.
Mate,
you're like, let me keep this going.
I'm not that sentimental when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway.
But that's the thing. It's like, I do a bit of jiu-jitsu so I can handle myself. And you're like, you're literally fighting.
Yeah.
So it's like, what use is it to you? You're on top of some boy in a ring. Like, I'm a purple belt, by the way.
So you're a recently awarded white belt under Mr. Ryan Roddy, my good friend. So so you've only met Ryan recently then?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about him? Because this guy is I don't even know how to describe him. You know, basically won the Hunger Games. Are you aware of this?
What was that?
The SAS Who Dares Wins TV show.
That's where I seen him initially. And then,
you watched the show?
I think so. I mean, like, I don't remember anything from
years
it.
ago.
Yeah. But I did see it. And obviously, like, you're watching one of those shows and then someone pops up with a familiar accent. You're like, who's this motherfucker? And then, yeah, just keeping a side eye on general, like, MMA things. You're kind of like, oh, no, kind of know who that is. And you're always like one guy away from sort of knowing a load of people.
The reason I ask is because I was not expecting it going into his gym to train, and then I just see you there. But like Ryan is, like, I really want him to get on the podcast because he is one of these people that has, like, he thinks that he's the most boring person ever.
Yeah.
But really, he's actually the most entertaining person I've ever met.
Yeah.
He basically won the Hunger Games. Like, this SAS Who Dares Wins, they just throw you in this, like, training camp for 10 days where they're just absolutely murdering you. And at this point, when he'd done the TV show, they didn't know if it was going to be on TV yet. It was just they were just shooting it. They didn't know if it was going to do well. It was the first season, so like there was not really any regulations.
Yeah.
And they just absolutely murdered him for 10 days. And he won the TV show. Just, like,
against who though? A bunch of accountants and stuff?
No, against like bad motherfuckers. Like against, like, he was recruited because he's a martial arts guy. Bunch of like real bad motherfuckers. But anyway,
that show lost the run of itself. You know, they get like
I only watched him in it. Like,
what do you call a boxer? Tony Bellew.
He done it.
And then they you know, like, make him fight two people, and they batter, like, he's just covering up, and then they're battering him, and eventually he cracks and fucking smacks a couple of them, and they're like, "You can't lose your cool." And he's like, "You just have me like jumped by fucking 8 people."
No good. But anyway, your martial arts journey.
But he is a cool guy. Like, some of this, I'll be laughing as you're rolling with him, and he'll chuck in wee lines where I'm like, this is hilarious.
Mate, he's so funny. Like, he's like, Ryan's, what age Ryan? Maybe like 36.
35?
Yeah. He's still like, he's beating the bollocks out of me. Like, I train with him every week and he beats the bollocks out of me. And like, you wouldn't even know. People have no idea.
I know, he seems very
He's so humble. Too humble.
Zened out.
But anyway, like, so I wanted to take you back to your early days of comedy because I first heard of you through I Am Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously maybe some martial arts influence there because he was an MMA fighter or wannabe MMA fighter, I guess. So like, take me back to that because like I Am Fighter, for any like international watchers, like this was like a cultural phenom here. Like this series that you've done, which essentially, like, how would you describe Barry the Blender to everyone? What was it?
It was like a mock documentary style. And it basically just came out of like, I had no intention of trying to be funny or trying to make videos, but then when I went to uni, they sort of let you do a bit of everything. Like, I was going to be like a graphic designer, hopefully. And then they had a module where it was like filmmaking, and you made a little film, and people were like, that's kind of funny. And then the second video I ever made was I Am Fighter 1, because I was obsessed with like The Office and, you know, Spinal Tap and all these like mock documentaries. And you know that thing of like, just start with what you have. And so I was like, I have a fucking shitty camcorder and there's a punch bag in my dad's garage. And I was just like, just make something up that you can do and you don't have to leave this like little box.
So good.
And I have been a big MMA fan for
so there was
forever,
the influence there. That's what I wanted to ask you about. Oh, mate, those I Am Fighter things were like, as I say, like for anybody who's watching internationally, like they were like cultural phenom things here. Like so I went on to it the other day. I think first episode was at near like 1 million views.
Yeah, which like relatively speaking isn't huge numbers. But
how many people live in Northern Ireland?
Exactly, and those numbers, like at the time, this wasn't like a reel that went viral. This was like you gotta sit down and like type it in and find it type thing.
But do you know what I was thinking when I seen that? I was like, this actually isn't the amount of views that these videos have, because whenever I was watching them back in the day, it was all through like whatever you were using, BBM or something. People would be sending you the link to it, or they'd be sending you the actual video.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
file,
I would say it's like way more views than you would think. Have you ever thought about that?
No.
I honestly would say it would be like ×5, ×10 of what the YouTube views are.
Maybe, yeah.
I think so. Like,
but it was crazy, like just even those numbers, like back in the day, you know, that wasn't really the intention. It was kind of just like made that gonna stick it up, and then you've no idea like how many people that is like outside.
Yeah.
So I was like working in a TV company in Derry, and I was just like, you know, doing a couple of fucking bits, like donkey work for them, like edits and stuff. While that video was like being viewed, probably like 1 to 4 was like insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went to see this band in Derry one night, and I got absolutely mobbed. Like I had no idea it was. I obviously seen the numbers, but it's hard to like.
What sort of numbers was it there? Like early days when you were like, holy shit.
Probably like, I remember it being like 189K.
Yeah, that's a
in
lot.
like a week
back
or
in the
something.
day, like,
and then I went to this gig, and I was like half pissed when I turned up. So all these people were like, because the characters Barry the Blender, they're like Barry, but the whole way up the steps in the nerve center, and I was like, you know, you're like, oh my god, you know, you're just not expecting it at all, and you're half hammered, and I was just like, what is going on? Boys taking photos of me trying to take a piss, you know. It was like completely like, you know, kind of nearly like fell into it just through being like interested in doing it, you know.
When for example that night when that happened, like who were you with, like your mates, or were you with a girl, or
just the guys that I live with, yeah.
And what was their reaction?
Yeah, they were just like, what the fuck, what's going on here? And someone from the nerve center had to like usher me through the back or something. They were just like, man, that's a bit much.
Well, here, that's what I mean by like the influence that this had back in the day. Like I can't recall anything that, like, maybe it's just the time period where I grew up where that was like such a big thing, but I can't think of anything else that's done like,
well, there was definitely
that kind of mockumentary style that's come in
Hardy
close to
Bucks
it.
probably.
Yeah, I suppose.
And again, like it was a bit different because it seemed a bit more like deliberate, you know, because there was like a series of those.
Yeah,
and
it was
a bunch of guys,
right? Or something.
It was
like that.
No, it was just YouTube, like pre that.
Yeah,
because I remember them getting the TV show and people being like, "Oh, this isn't the same."
Yeah,
you know, because they had the.
They've sold out. They've sold out the big fucking RTE.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can only sell out if you have something to sell.
I know,
you know?
big time, big time. What you said that was your second video? What was your first?
It was this. Now this is hilarious. It was for like a final project, and it was called Hits, and it was a mock documentary about a group of guys trying to replicate what were viral videos at the time.
Okay, and what were they?
All the fucking Charlie bit my fingers and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know, like
is that up anywhere?
I don't know.
No. Would you ever post it?
I don't even know where it is.
Oh, you wouldn't. Yeah,
That's the thing. Like all this is taking so long. Like people still shout things at me like in the street, and I don't even know where it's from. So they'll be like they'll be shouting quotes at me, and I'll be like, "Is that?" I'm like, "Did I say that or something?" Yeah. I can't even. Do you know what I mean? Like the volume of like material that's passed through in the last 15
that's watching
years.
This right now, if you see Colin out in the street, just think of something insane to shout at him. You'd be like, "Mind that! I love that video back in the day, Colin."
There were some of the lines were rough as
Go
fuck.
give me some.
Like there was because it was always like, you know, like bad martial arts followed up by something stupid.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, "Oh, fucking something your corpse, you bastards!" A boy shouting at me out of vans, like, and I'm like, you know, like, and then everyone's looking at me like, "What's he saying? Why is he saying that to you?" And you're like,
me.
"Keep it moving, keep it moving." There.
Your wife's like, "What did he
Nah,
just?"
she's seen it all. Like she don't give a shit anymore.
She just did that.
Some of the shit on my phone or like whatever, she'll not anyone else's partner will be like, "Why is there a picture of a man fisting another man here?" She knows the stuff that we go through in the podcast. She would just be like, she wouldn't give a shit. She'd be scrolling past it.
Desensitized.
Why is there a blow up sex doll in your boot? Oh well, just throw the shopping in beside
It's
it.
for the podcast. It's for the podcast.
I bought Mark McCartney a 7-kilogram rubber ass. And it was the most expensive prank I've ever played. It was £350.
Oh my god!
7 kilo big rubber ass.
Just in a rubber, like, could you bucket, like, or
oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, you could.
Both holes,
Did you get a wee run out before you give it to him, or?
No. I thought that would have been rude. I bought you this present, give it a wipe there, but presented it to him like on stage at a live podcast. I was just like,
it's like you're handed to him. There's like wee bits dripping off. And you're like,
yeah.
"Oh, fuck, I missed that bit."
Yeah. But like, yeah, that was kicking about the boot for a couple of weeks.
Oh my
like,
god, that's brilliant.
and all he does is use it as a pen holder. I was like, that cost me 350 quid. Please tell me you banged it.
Does he have it on like a set or something?
Well, here's the thing. If
350 quid rubber arse.
If I give one to you right now, you're probably like, "Oh, Jesus, I got to put this in a bin bag or something, get it to the car." He just took it home to his man dad's house, slapped it on the table, and the next photo I got was of his dad just prizing it open. Right? And I'm like, I can't even imagine showing my dad that, you know? His dad. And I wrote back, I was like...
The questions my dad would ask if I walked into the house with that, like...
But the dad was just yanking
like,
his cheeks apart, and I was
son,
like...
are you gay?
I was like, that's not the big man's first rodeo. Like, he knows what he's at.
Like father, like son, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, freak, that's unbelievable.
But yeah, the whole thing, everything, almost everything I've done, like back in the day, I just kind of fell into it. It's one of them things I wasn't one of these kids where like, I want to be a comedian.
Yeah.
Because it sounds nuts, like, so you have to, like, I kind of fell into that, and then I was like, oh, I guess I make, like, videos for YouTube.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to monetize it or make it a business or anything, and then through making those, you, like, fall in with, like, other stand-ups. And then,
so that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
When did you start? Were you doing stand-up, or had you even thought about doing stand-up before you started making videos?
No, I hadn't thought about it. Liked it, like, you know.
You did? You were always, like, fans of watching it?
Like,
who would you have watched? Anybody local, or would it have been, like, US comics?
It would have been the stuff that, like, everyone watched that was kicking about everyone's house. So, like, the Billy Connolly's and the Michael McIntyre DVDs kicking about and all that shit. But then I saw, it was on Channel 4 one night, it was Human Traffic. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
There's a bit where he sits down and watches a bit of Bill Hicks before he goes out, because Bill Hicks is talking about hallucinogenic drugs. And I remember going, who the fuck's that? Because it was, like, the first time I'd ever seen a comedian that wasn't, like, a clown. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like, bleh, trying to be all crazy.
Yeah.
He was literally like this cool fucking guy in like a big long coat. So I was like, who's that? And then started getting into that. And then it went from like Bill Hicks to just, it's mainly American comedians I'm a fan of.
Was there anybody like locally or even like south that like whenever you were coming up, you were like, frig, they're hilarious?
Oh yeah. Like,
or was it kind of different style? Oh, there
people
was.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Tommy Tiernan, all those ones.
Makes sense.
But it was always like the American style.
Yeah.
Very storytelling over here. And the Americans were like, you know, punchier kind of material.
We are proudly sponsored by That Prize Guy, the #1 prize competition in all of UK and Ireland. They've given away over 130 million in prizes so far. That Prize Guy has made 8 millionaires already, with number 9 pending. For your chance to be a winner, head on over to thatprizeguy.co.uk. When you start the videos, when you start I Am Fighter, what age are you there? Roughly.
23.
23.
22.
You literally look the same age.
Yeah, I look rough as fuck then too. That's the joys of being stinking and bald. You maintain a 4 till you're about 75.
That's a compliment, like.
Yeah,
compliment. Like you look like your 23-year-old self. Is what I'm saying.
In shape. You know, I've just been like consistently kind of shit. You know. Do you know what I mean? Like you come out the gate bald and just like
can't get worse from here, boys. Well, a minute for the long run now.
You get old photos of all them other comedians, you know, they're all like fucking rough back in the day.
Anyway, that's a compliment. You still look like your 23-year-old self is what I'm trying to say. But so you're 23 then when you start that, and you're obviously doing the videos for a number of years. How long is it until you do like your first stand-up set?
It was quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like within the year.
So that like kind of, did that ignite a flame for you? We were just like, let me try this. I've obviously got something.
In my head, I was like, you know, making these videos, and then in my head, I was like, let me prove that I'm actually funny in real life.
Like in school, for example, would you have been like funny kid in school, or would you have been quiet? Like, would you have known like I'm funny? Like I should maybe try something.
I've always said this, but like, everyone was kind of funny in our school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're playing rugby.
Where'd you go to school?
Ballyclare High.
Ballyclare.
But everyone's fucking... You know, it was like a race to get the last line in before the bell rang. Like.
Yeah.
So everyone was funny and everyone had fucking zingers. And it was always just like a slagging match. So I wouldn't have been
I think that's most of us growing up here. I think this is why we're just like so quick-witted here.
Yeah.
Is like... because we're just completely taking the fucking piss all the time.
Yeah. But there are a lot of funny people here. But like, I always say like... The difference in being like a funny guy and being deliberately funny.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
For money is like a different game altogether.
I could only imagine.
Because how many funny people do you probably go in the gym and they're full of headers, like, and it's
the
great
biggest characters you've ever met, like, but
being,
it's a different game, right?
Yeah, like being funny deliberately.
Yeah.
In a space where people are expecting you to be funny is like a totally different
I couldn't
thing.
imagine. Like, how did you find that then? Where was your first stand-up? Was it Belfast or?
The Pavilion in Belfast.
Okay. And how did that go? Tell me about it.
This is the bad thing. It went very well.
Oh.
And then the second one went very well, and I was like, boys, nailed it.
I've got it.
Yeah, I was like, what's the fucking fuss about? Why is everyone so nervous? This is a gift. Third one, shit.
All in the pavilion.
No, the
was
third
it
one was
around?
like some pop-up gig in like an art gallery or something,
Okay.
where I turned up, and because of the videos, like some people knew who I was, so they're like, "You're the draw here, so you can go on last." And I'd only done like 2 gigs, and I was like, it was like bring your own booze and all. I was about 18 bottles of Stella in. They're like, "You're going on last," and I was like, "What?" I thought I was here to do like 5 minutes at the start,
Oh,
you know.
frig.
So that was a disaster. But then nothing changes. Like you have, it's up and down the whole
It's
time.
up and down. So at that point, then people obviously know you're Barry the Blender Henderson. So are they coming to your gigs because of that? Like, are you promoting
Yeah.
it and going, I'm doing gigs here and here? And then people are going, oh, here, like, let's go see a stand up? Or at that point, are you still kind of keeping
Yeah, there
it
was
low key?
there was definitely like stand up nights organized, and I was going to do stand up, and people would turn up being like, "Oh, wait, who's this guy in his
Yeah.
normal clothes?" Like
Yeah.
they were expecting like character stuff, which I hate live character things anyway.
Yeah, it's
So
probably
I would
probably a
never
weird
do it.
thing. Like, probably a hard thing to do. Like,
It's hard, and
like how could you do stand up doing that? Like,
it's a bit cringy for me. Like you
Yeah.
just, but at the time I was literally trying to like shake that.
okay,
It took me probably 7 years to shake off.
really?
You're not coming to see like a character thing.
Yeah.
Here.
I'd say that was probably difficult enough, like, because everyone's just assuming you're this person and they're just expecting you to
Yeah.
be that guy.
It has pros and cons because it's like anyone else would be afforded the time to like do 5 minutes and do 7 and do 10 and sort of die in the darkness when it comes to like
Yeah,
stand up
yeah.
and then get better. I think my second gig I did about 20 minutes, which is mad. Like,
In your second gig?
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Can you remember any of like your earlier material?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't know if I've changed my style at all in the whole
Okay.
time.
That's 20 minutes instead. Still
Yeah,
kills
I
for me, to
remember
be
I was
honest.
doing a bit of slabbering about like loose women at the time or something, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, like if there was fucking hack comedy, you're like, imagine there was a men's version of loose women, you know, and they're just, you know, they're all perving over male guests and stuff. I was like, if it was the opposite way, I wouldn't fly. And the actual style hasn't really changed. I'd still be like, you know, how can they get away with that, but I can't or something.
Yeah. I fucking
Double
love it.
standard comedy. That's
I
what's
love
up.
it. I think it's all great. So like that would have been a good number of years ago then. So from that point when you started doing comedy, then you'd done I Am Fighter. What was the next period like for you? Were you just going, right, I'm just gonna go focus on comedy for a while when I'm not doing like character stuff, or is it just I'm having fun with it, let's see what happens?
Just like I was joking with my wife recently. I was like, I've done the same 3 or 4 things for the whole time,
Yeah.
just on different scales.
Yeah.
So it's like some video stuff, stand up, and the podcast
Yeah.
in whatever shape or form that came in.
Yeah.
And then they all just kind of like built momentum, you know?
And your podcast, did you just start that by yourself back in the day, or
Yeah.
was that a joint thing?
No, that was just me listening to Bill Burr and being like, I could do this.
Yeah.
Got myself the wee recorder and just
Yeah.
started like that.
How many years were you doing that for? Because you only stopped doing your own your
it's
own
kinda
personal
started-
podcast
I mean, the
recently,
thing is
right?
with Bomb Squad, like that is my podcast.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it just I'd been podcasting so long. It was pre like Spotify and iTunes. You know, you had to
Yeah.
explain to people what a podcast was. So you're missing that like initial boom of excitement when you
Yeah.
launch one. So we got to a point where I was like, we're gonna have to launch something else here
Yeah.
to get that spark going.
Yeah, and so that's my next question. I love Bomb Squad. Like, I've watched loads of it recently. I've got proper into it. I think it is just such an unbelievably funny podcast. Like, it is like, you could say, is it probably the number 1 podcast here at the minute? It's definitely
Well,
up, definitely one
You
off.
know, you're talking like you got Tea with Me and
Yeah.
Bomb Squad, but what I love is they're like they're 2 very different products. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Shane's obviously a lot more polished and good looking and can chat to guests, and we're like, we don't give a fuck about guests and all that. You know, let's so you got
Talking about
you
fucking-
have the pro kind of polished thing over here,
Yeah.
and then the sort of feels like a bit of an underground movement type of thing. You know what I mean? So-
Underground movement's a good way.
do you know what I mean? I mean,
it's like
we've been sent about 10 tattoos. Like people are getting tattoos
serious.
and shit. Yeah,
But you
it's insane.
have proper cult following vibes, like
think
because it
so,
is
yeah.
a culty kind of, not a culty podcast, and that sounds, I don't know how that sounds, but like it is like you just have your own niche of just humor that is just so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, used to just bounce off each other. Like, for any of our guests, international, that haven't listened to it, the Bomb Squad podcast, definitely check it out. It's unbelievably funny. But you and Aaron you just have this back and forth. You just have pockets of back and forth that are just like elite comedy. That like nobody, I've never seen anybody do it. Like anywhere, any part of the world, you just have it.
I will re-listen to Bomb Squad, which I never did with my own.
Well, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
And then my wife is on like our Patreon. And she's like, I just was trying to listen to different stuff today, and none of it was doing it for me, so I just signed up to your Patreon. And I'm like, this is mad. And then she walks around the house with the AirPod in, and I'm like, I'm here too. You can talk to me live if you fancy that. She's
live
like,
version right here.
I've no interest in that.
She's like, why do you never answer my questions in the Patreon? You're like, I live with you.
But yeah, it is like, obviously the podcast that I did on General Banter with Aaron did very well because of that chemistry.
So is that okay? So is that where the kind of origin story then was, like, obviously you was doing the podcast back and forth, where people just comment and going like, you just have to do one together, or you kind of just figured it out yourself? You're like, this works.
Niall, who does the Bomb Squad, he's the producer on that. He was filming for me on General Banter, and I jokingly said out loud one day, I was like, flip it. We should never get Aaron on just every episode, just because the numbers are good. And then about 2 weeks went by, and he came in. He's like, "I've got an idea for you. Why don't we just start a new podcast with like just the two of you, and I'll do all the production?" And I was like, "Oh, where'd you get that idea?"
Was it from the 7 episodes of filming we just done?
Yeah, but it does work very well. Me and Aaron are very close, like, and there's kind of like I'm 8 years older than him. You might not believe that, but we just get
Honestly,
on very
I don't know
well.
what age you are. You could be still 23, like.
Me? 23 stone. But we just get on very well. There is a sort of big brother, little brother vibe going on. Like, the first time I met him, he was in a school uniform, and we stopped in Asda on the way to like Bundoran or something, and he just come up to me.
For a gig, I'm assuming? Like,
just for like a weekend, like Airbnb.
The first time you met him?
Yeah, he just come up to me in the Asda, and he was like, "All right, man, I was wanting to do stand-up. I was wondering if you knew." And that's the first time I met him, and then anytime I gigged in Oma, he'd be there.
Oh, you met him in the Asda?
Yeah.
I thought you meant you and him were going to Bundoran for the weekend, and it was the first time you met him, and I was like, that's a bit sus.
No, that's what I mean. Like, he's probably like 18, and I'm like 26, just stopping off in Asda to buy booze. And this guy starts chatting to me, and then I just kept seeing him, and then I was just...
Full culty thrown accent, just like, and you're like, what? Say it again.
Yeah, but there's that relationship's been going on for years, like.
Okay. So, like, the Bomb Squad podcast, like, how long ago was it you launched it? Like a year and a half. It has absolutely blown up, like.
Well, we just got signed up to Spotify there. We're a Spotify podcast now.
No way. Congratulations.
We're getting a billboard in London, apparently. I'm going to have to fly over and be like, look at that. Which, by the way, I like, Niall told me, he's like, we're signing up to Spotify now, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I seen other podcasts, like, like Shane Gillis's, like Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, big announcement, we're a Spotify podcast. And I was like, oh, is this a big deal? I was like, is this a big deal?
Oh, really?
Should we, like...
That's massive.
Post something about this or something?
That's massive.
Because nothing changes, like,
What way does it work? Do they have exclusivity? Like, do they...
They just host it and boost it and probably look a percentage of your ad money back.
Yeah, so they'll, like, auto put in ads and stuff like that themselves.
But they're responsible for trying to boost it.
Yeah, so it's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, they can monetize it, but you're obviously getting the bigger
until we say something, questionable, and then they're like, we'd like to terminate this contract.
You have a great chance of doing you probably have a really good chance of doing that.
I know, but it's, like I always thought about that in stand-up, like, am I going to say something's going to get me cancelled? And I'm like, pick any minute of like any podcast in the last year and a half, and you can...
So... But you'll still have your normal YouTube episodes. None of that changes with Spotify.
Nothing changes from
they just put it onto their platform for an audio perspective. Yeah. But then it will be video as well.
Video's on Spotify now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. That's great for anybody that's watching. Like.
Yeah, it's handy.
Yeah, really good.
Driving, don't have to look at the road. You can watch it on the phone.
Perfect. My favorite. Speaking of that, I literally was in a car crash in the year. Literally, no, it wasn't my doing.
You got to choke down an 80-year-old man, didn't you?
Some old man is still lying dead in the freaking... No, I'm joking. I was very polite with him. But anyway, so whenever you started the Bomb Squad, how long was it then until you got the shout out from Bert Kreischer? So just maybe you can pull that up there while we're talking about it. The Bomb Squad, Bert Kreischer shout out.
Well, I don't know. Again, just very organic. Like he'd obviously seen a reel randomly.
Is that what it was? Just a reel that was on Instagram or something?
You end up like in that circle, you know, like on the algorithm. I'm sure your phone's just all fight stuff. You know, our podcast, like here's other podcasts that are similar.
Yeah.
He probably just saw that. And it was so weird because he nearly gave us a shout out one week. And we were like, oh, he nearly said it. And he got cut off.
So he was like, what was it he was saying? He was like, oh, there's this
He
Irish
basically
podcast or something.
He was just like, I found this clip and I was laughing my head off.
What was it, the clip? What was it about?
Oh, we were talking about David Goggins. And Aaron said, I can't remember now. He said something like, have you got the clip there? Yeah, it's something about like, Aaron was, you know, he's like, he'd stop running if the song wasn't right or something. Like, that's all it took for him to, like, quit.
Yeah.
He would just be running and be like, nah, not today. There it is. But fair play. Like, he took the time the next week to give us, like, a proper shout-out.
Is this the proper shout-out? Oh, this is on your...
Talking about great pods. There's a podcast, these two guys from Ireland. Their podcast isn't huge at all.
It's not a million miles away from me and Aaron.
History podcast. Their podcast came up, and it was a clip of them talking about David Goggins, and they were talking about how, like, he doesn't quit, and then the one guy goes, I quit if I don't like the song. And it made me laugh so hard, and I ended up listening to a bunch of their podcasts while, like, in bed.
Really?
It's a really funny podcast, and they only have 8,000 followers, so check them out.
Not anymore.
It is, I will tell you this, it reminds me a little, it's like a hot,
soundboard
it's
right now.
a little like it's called the Bomb Squad Pod. They're out of Ireland, and they made me giggle. I follow both of them, but it just, the idea, they're making fun of themselves, but talking about David Goggins.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn it, they're fucking good. So
Cool.
check them out, everyone.
All right.
All right.
So you must have had a bunch of people just send you that clip right away, because a lot of people, I'm assuming, that are into your podcast listen to other comedy podcasts, like
100%.
myself.
Yeah.
They were probably like, you have to see this right now.
Yeah.
Like, how did that go down for you?
It's pretty wild, you know. You're like, fucking hell, that's crazy. And we were trying to act on that, like, momentum at the time, and go to Austin. Like, we've been to Austin before, and there's like a load of little connections there. Like, Aaron's open for Shane Gillis, and we got that shout out. And all, like, a trip to Austin would be pretty fruitful for us. You know, you probably get someone to do your podcast or whatever, get some spots. And we had a trip planned, and then I had to fucking pull out of it for something.
Oh, no.
Which would have been the prime time to go.
To get it.
But we'll get back, like.
Yeah. Is that are you planning to get back there someday to go do a few podcasts with other guests and potentially something like that?
Yeah, I think so. We need to make use of Aaron being in New York a lot more.
Yeah. I think the likes of Bert there, like, does he live in Austin?
Yeah.
Is he one of these guys moved? Like, I don't see why someone like that wouldn't do your podcast if you were there.
What would happen? You know, you probably like, do you want to do our podcast? And, you know, he's probably got the full setup and his own comfort. So he'd probably be like, just come around to my house and do it. Yeah. You know, and you'd be like, all right, sweet.
Why not?
But we should get on that. But then, you know what I mean? You have family and children. And
of course.
Sort of
Did you done like a video back to them at one of your live shows? I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember you being on stage and playing the clip. Was that one of your live podcasts for Bomb Squad?
It could have been, yeah.
What was the story behind that again?
We might have played the almost shout out.
Yeah.
At one of the shows.
Is that what it was?
It was the almost shout out.
How did that go? What was the almost shout out?
He was about to do that same speech the previous week, and then Tom Segura just cut him off with something.
Oh no.
And it was like watching a fucking football match or something. We were like, oh!
And that could have been a one and done. Like, you're like, we're never breaking out. Like,
but it's cool. Like, you know, yeah, it's that wee connection where, like, if you did go to Austin or something and he was free, he might do something.
That's cool. I kind of see you as like, honestly, a much better version of them too. Now I know that their podcast is like obviously massive, and they're both like worldwide touring comedians. But like, this is what I often think about is like the comedy scene here. Like, it's obviously popping off, especially in the north here. Like, it's doing really, really well. There's a real demand for it. Like, you're all doing shows in like the SSE and the Waterfront like multiple times per year. You're doing Patreon shows every year. You're doing live podcasts every year. To me, I kind of think about like likes of these guys. Like, they're huge and they've got huge followings, but it's because they're American.
It is
because
like,
they've got more of a
bro,
access.
If we were on the same level we are in America,
No question.
I'd have been dropped off in a Rolls Royce here.
There's like isn't that crazy?
I don't know if the same is in like sport, like or fighting, but the fucking momentum that the pushing of your own car that you have to do, is serious. Like I feel, like even if I started the same comedy career in London and it started to whip up like that, you would be on a much bigger level because you're really like. You're just trying to get the wheels turning for so many years.
Yeah.
And there was obviously like the Hole in the Wall gang and that sort of generation of comedians. And once you get in and you're in with the BBC and you're in with these things, you're the comedians for the next 2 or 3 decades, basically.
Yeah. You're in like the institution, like
until
almost.
the internet came around, and that's what has produced like that latest boom.
Yeah,
which would have been, it was all the same people. It was like me and Shane and Mickey, and there's a whole pile of ones that are like roughly the same age that all came up. At the same time. Yeah,
well, you lay the groundwork here. Like, you are the reason that like the scene is just popping off here. Likes of you and Shane and Mickey, you grew the scene here. Like, I think it's such a fascinating thing how like much of a demand there is for it here, because we just love the crack. We're Irish. We just love.
It's wild, and then it's great to see like I maybe have a wee punch through with like the I Am Fighter stuff, and then you start a podcast and it gets decent listens, and then all of a sudden you've got your mate Mickey on it, and then people start to know who he is, and then it's just like a knock-on effect.
It's like a web, like, but it's a similar kind of vibes to like Rogan and the way he done it. Obviously in America, like kind of friends,
it's on a much smaller
it's like
scale.
a network. But my point being, like, if this was the States, like, yous are all as talented, if not more talented than half of these guys. This is something I don't know if yous think about this in your kind of industry, but I think about that and go, like, these guys are way funnier than half of these American comics.
Well, it could be like a sort of familiarity thing.
Could be, like...
But then also, like, the pace that you have to move over here, because it's such a small country, like, you could write an hour of stand-up and tour America for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you could write an hour of stand-up here and do your 30 gigs regionally. Yeah. And then you have to fucking bin it and start all over again. So boys are, like, total machines. And, like, I've heard Shane say this before, he's like, thinks Belfast maybe, like, pound for pound, the best scene.
That's a good way to look at it, pound for pound wise.
And I think so. Like, we've give people the old Lavry shuffle before, where someone comes in from somewhere and you drop them in the mix with, like, like maybe I'm hosting and Mickey's on and Paddy McDonald and all, and it's like, who gives a fuck, Who gives a fuck where you're from? Yeah. Because you've just been, shuffled into the deck of, like, absolute killers.
Yeah. That's a great scene for, like, up and coming comics here. Like, that's a great...
I haven't had a lot of experience in, like, other places, like, but that time we went to Austin, I thought it was going to be harder than it was, but we basically just messaged this club and we're like, can we get on? And they're like, yep.
I
was like, all right.
Sweet.
And we went up and we were like, man, we're in Austin. This is going to be wild. Pacing up and down at the back and all. Yeah. Everybody was shit. Apart from one guy who we're now, like, mates with. Yeah. But everybody was shite and, like, sort of edgelord comedy where they're dropping F-bombs and, slagging off Mexicans, even though the whole place is Mexicans, I was like, you're brief. But, we went up and, like, noticeably the most experienced comedians on the bill. Yeah. In the comedy capital of the world. The best. Yeah, shite.
Man, it's interesting that, like, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about is Lavry's Comedy Club. Uh-huh. Because that's how many years have you been doing that now?
13.
Yeah, another thing that's, like, growing the scene here massively is Lavry, so that would probably be the best thing to go to here. It's on a Thursday night from 9 o'clock? Is that right?
Starts at 8:30.
Starts at 8:30.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, you're doing Wednesdays now as well? Okay.
It was always Wednesday. It was like once a month, then twice a month, then every week, and then we added a day. Yeah. And there is no dedicated, like, comedy club in Belfast still. Yeah.
Really?
Lavry's wouldn't be that. It's just like a night, but still. It's just taken that long to get established.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look, you look at where the scene was probably like 5-10 years ago and where it's at now. It's like, it's just popping off, as you say, probably pound for pound. Like Belfast, these types of places are, like, producing, like, real freaking killers. Like, I love to see it. Like, it's so good to see.
And very, like, varied enough where it's, no one's, like, fighting for the same thing. It's like very different, like, styles.
Completely got their own styles. Yeah. Like, I think it's fascinating. So good. So my next question is actually about your live podcast that you're doing now. Uh-huh. So talking about Bomb Squad and the growth of the comedy scene here, you're doing the SSE Arena. Yeah. May the 3rd or May the 2nd?
May the 2nd.
May the 2nd, Friday night.
Yeah.
Like, how does that feel, doing like the biggest arena you can do here for a podcast where you're just talking about friggin'...
It's cool.
Madness.
It's cool, you know what I mean? But it's like, we've done some big ones before.
Yeah.
They are a bit more stressful than like just doing stand-up because you kind of have to produce a show.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can rewatch that then. You know, we film it and you can rewatch it on Patreon and stuff. But yeah, it's fun. It's just... And the fans are like crazy because they're so hardcore about like the podcast.
Yeah.
And they get all the in-jokes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we've done the Waterfront, obviously.
What have you done for the live podcast? Because this is another thing I'm fascinated with in the scene here, is like how many events you do. Like you're doing your own tour a lot of the times, then you're doing the live podcast tour, then you're doing Patreon exclusive nights. Like, what you have that coming up, but what was the journey to kind of get to the SSE? Were you doing other venues before this? For
the Waterfront, like it's 2,000 people.
Okay, there you are.
But we did the Waterfront when we had like 24 episodes of the podcast out.
That's crazy.
You know,
like that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like that's nothing.
Yeah. But the thing is, like it's not a new thing. I had done loads as a general banter live.
Yeah.
With Aaron. You know, so it's like not that crazy to just it's got a new name and it's the same guys with a slightly different format.
Yeah. So how do you go about, like, obviously booking the SSE? So you obviously have to sort out your production, these sorts of things. Are you like planning months in advance, right? We're gonna have this guest and this guest, or is it just you and Aaron?
It's just me and Aaron, probably.
That's brilliant.
Maybe a couple of features from his new boxing coach and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're not gonna bring him over, like.
Yeah.
I don't know what good that would do, but that was always the thing with Bomb Squad was like no guests.
Yeah.
Like just try and
you don't need them.
No, I don't think so. And then people get pissed off when you do have a guest.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, but I would like some sort of variation of something where I could have on a guest.
Yeah.
Maybe not the main episode, but maybe like a Patreon thing. Like a Patreon thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like it's one of those things. If you had a regular job and then someone told you like you have to do an arena tomorrow night, you'd shit the bed. Like, but it's been so gradual, you know, like the venues have always built up. There isn't actually that much of a difference between, if you're talking about like stress and pressure, between 500 people and 6,000 people.
It's the same. You're doing the event.
It's the same work. Like,
the event has to run smooth.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting into.
You can't see past like the fourth row anyway. So
yeah,
you don't know how many people are there.
Do you do like any like audience interaction in the Bomb Squad podcast?
Yeah, sometimes like we've toyed with the idea of doing like live questions, but again, you're taking a risk of like, is this going to be funny, or are people just going to ask like pretty boring questions?
Yeah, or people are just going to be shouting, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of crowd work, you know, come out and sit down and see who's in front of us, and bit of a slagging match, whatever. But we do prepare a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like topics, like things like that.
Just the flow of the show. Like you don't want to get up there like a live podcast is not a live podcast.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be doing this
keep
like
it flowing
at the Waterfront. You're kind of like, right, got to jazz this up a wee bit. You know,
makes sense. We interrupt this episode to tell you about our amazing sponsor, the Record Room Hillsborough, where we are right now. The Record Room comes with all the equipment you need with multiple set options, whether you want to launch your own podcast or if your company needs to shoot its own marketing content. It is a one-stop shop for everything that you need. If this sounds like something that you need, use the booking link in the description, let yourself in, and hit record. Well, here, that's so exciting. Is there anything else you've got coming up this year that you've got planned? Anything you can announce for us, or
different? We've got the SSE. We've got a few things will be launched. Like we did the comedians comedy at the SSE.
Which is like how did it go?
Unreal.
Yeah. What was the premise of that?
So it's probably Shane's fault. You know, like they were branching out into like different stuff, like the boxing, and then Sean Haggerty did the darts, and it was always comedians, stars in their eyes, comedians, something.
Yeah.
And you know, the joke was always like, "Can we not just do fucking stand up?" Like, and then
so hence the name Comedians Comedy.
Comedians Comedy. It's a stupid name, but the date freed itself up, and
Christmas time,
27th of December, and Kieran Bartlett said to me like, "I was going to use this for something. I'm not using it anymore. Have you any ideas before I give the date up?"
Yeah,
and I was like, just do a big gig and call it Comedians Comedy.
I love it. What did you do? Like 10, 15 minutes each, or
8 comedians doing 15 minutes each with like no MC because we didn't want to eat up any more time.
Yeah.
So we had Julian Simmons do
Unbelievable.
the link videos.
Unbelievable.
And see when you go to a big show like that, like if one comedian did 60 minutes and then took a break and then did another 60 minutes, it would be the longest night of your life.
Yeah.
Because they're only doing 15s, like just boom, 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 and it was over. Like, it was great.
Isn't it class you were able to just do that as well? Like, because I would have estimate, like, if you were in America or somewhere, everyone's got different booking agents, everyone's got different management, they're all looking at different fees.
Yeah.
It probably can do something like that in America, whereas here, you're just like, who wants to do 15 minutes?
Well, that was the thing, like, and some people were a bit like, you know, what's my cut? And we're kind of going like, everyone's getting the same money, but this is more to just do something cool that we can film, and it's like a special. You know, if you want all the marbles, book it yourself type of thing. This is more for a laugh.
And
But
what
it was
about?
great crack.
Yeah, I'm sure it was great.
I had to go up first.
Oh, that's probably not fun.
I don't care. I've done it plenty
Well,
of times.
at least it's
like-
out of the way. You
It's
can
out
go
of the
get in
way.
the
Oh
piss
yeah.
the
It
rest
was,
of the
by
night.
the time the last guy went on, I was hammered. But
You were
Yeah, I
heckling,
was
you were
just-
heckling him.
I was organising this gig, and it was just like, I don't really want to force that on anybody. I don't want to be like, congrats, you're going up first. So I was just like, I'll do it. To save the arguments, like, I'll just go up first. Fuck it.
Have you got any other events you're planning, like any Patreon events?
Well, the thing is, with Aaron being in America now, he comes home and we record for a week. So got the SSE. It won't be like a tour, but we are going to dot some gigs in, you know.
Okay, for the Bomb Squad.
Glasgow, probably the biggest, probably like is it the Academy in Glasgow or something like that?
Exciting. So
Derry,
you'll
Dublin.
be busy then this year doing that.
I'll be busy. I'm probably going to cut back in the stand-up, but I've plenty of other cool stuff I would like to do.
Unreal. Exciting. Exciting.
What are you doing a podcast for? That's what I'd like to know.
Why not? Why not? Mate, there's a lot of people I want to talk to.
You're just
Do
like,
you know
it's
what?
not tough enough getting fucking punched in the head.
I need another media
I
property.
need another thing that's going to cause me stress.
See, to be honest, mate,
No one's going to drop out on you, though. Sorry, Paul can't make it. You were like, at their door and
Is
all
that right?
later.
Is that right, mate? See, to be honest, it's actually kind of a selfish thing. There's so many people I just want to talk to and have long form conversations with, and I just want to learn from. You know, locally, like there's so many like interesting people. See, just locally, anybody that's doing anything good, I get so much motivation from. Like it really inspires me more than like seeing anybody from around the world. Someone that I know from down the road.
Yeah.
I look at that and go like, that really inspires me because I know what you have to kind of the barriers you have to break through locally to kind of go beyond. You know, and I know that from my own experience. So,
And even just getting past the mindset of people from this country.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the first barrier for. That's what kills most dreams here. You know,
It's
is
always
just
like
how we
there-
grow
It
up.
cracks me up because it's all this like, are we country? And people go abroad and they're wearing all their tops and they're all sort of patriotic.
Yeah.
And then anyone from here tries to do anything, like,
Try
what are
to
you
break
playing
through.
at? We're all supposed to be sad here. Are you joking me?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
That's literally the main. Like, unfortunately, that is like the way I kind of see it here. Is like we have small town mentality, but we're such a small country that it kind of applies everywhere. But like anywhere as well, like there's so many pros and there's so many cons. Like anywhere, you know, like there's so much positives from coming from here. Like me personally, I think it's one of my greatest assets is because I'm from here is the fact that now I'm getting into these positions that I'm in. It's like you never take yourself too serious because you just can't.
Yeah.
Like if
Because
you
you have to go back
don't-
to a centre and someone will be giving you shit.
Exactly. If you take yourself too serious here, like people don't connect to you anymore. So in turn, like they don't support you. If you're like Billy Big Bollocks across the world and you're like flexing this and flexing that, but they know like we come from down the road and they know who your cousins are and they know you're fucking they grew up with you and they know what you're really like, then to me it's like I think that's one of the best things about being from here too.
Stay grounded.
Stay grounded, 10 toes. Me with a little bag last week in the gym. You were like, you
Moving
definitely
up in the world. Bellator t-shirt, little bag.
you haven't lost the run of yourself anyway, Paul. Still use the little bags, the Tesco bags. Got to do it.
It's a bag for life, man.
It's a fact.
You know, they tell you from the
It's
top.
marketing. That's what they say. Anyway, on that note, that concludes today's episode. Colin, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciate it. I really enjoyed that. Love to hear like the early day stories as well. But that's the episode for today. If you like the episode, like, subscribe, notifications too, because apparently they're important these days. So like, subscribe, notifications, and we'll see you at the next one.
Am I a blue belt now? After this,
Colin, we've brought you out. Actually, your promotion.
only goes round once.
It's like a kid size. And you're like, fuck's sake. Shit. This one's got ringworm on it, actually. But anyway, thank you. See you at the next one. Boom. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
No worries. Be anyone else in today?
Nah, not today.